Hey everyone, welcome back to another fresh new episode of My Car Season 4. My name is Jay Srivastav.
And I am Pranav Tar, and we are your hosts for the season. For today's episode, we have with us Miss Shrishti Behel. She's one of the most successful female producers, and she took up television at a time only a few were willing to experiment.
Currently, she is the director, India Original Films at Netflix, and the person behind shows like Ghost Stories, Chopsticks, Guilty, Muska, and many more. Welcome, Shrishti ma'am, to My Cast, My Car's official podcast.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
So are we, ma'am. So, ma'am, let's start with your role. Could you tell us a bit about it? And how is your day like?
I have what I like to call the best job in the world. Uh, I get to read scripts, read books, and enable filmmakers to tell their best stories on a service like Netflix, which takes the content across over 190 countries and in an accessible way of with dubbing and subtitling that happens in about 30 languages. So it's an opportunity for us to kind of showcase the best of India to the world. And I get to work with some very, very talented people here in our team, in the content team, and put together, hopefully, what is a very exciting slate for all our subscribers. To put it simply, how does my day go, right? Uh, I'm an early riser. I am up by 5 a.m. I think that's an early rising. I don't know what time you guys wake up, but yeah, and I'm in office by say about I'm going to say 7:30, and it gives me. I mean, I love that time of day, and now that we're back in office, I'm really excited to be doing this again. And I get to read a lot of scripts, talk to a lot of filmmakers, whether they're writers or they're directors, some of the more established people who have, who've already made films, and sometimes newcomers who are working on their first film as a writer, as a director, sometimes as a producer, and read all their stories and, kind of enable them to then get into shooting, or sometimes you need to put them together with a production house if it's a new director, or you have a writer who has a great script and you can introduce them to the right uh, creator to be able to make it, the right director to be able to make it. So we kind of work on that team building as well. I always feel that our primary job is to try and keep the creative people true to their own vision, because as you develop things and you go into so many stages, filmmaking is a very, very collaborative art form, unlike a lot of others which are more personal, like when you're doing a painting, or sometimes, of course, when you're composing music as well, when you bring it to life, you bring in a lot of other musicians and a lot of other flavor in it. But with filmmaking, every step of the way, people keep joining in and bringing their vision to it as well. So sometimes that can get diluted in the process. So I think that's one of the things that we enjoy doing, is to remember what had excited the filmmaker in the first place, and keep them true to that as we go along. And then there's editing and marketing and putting it out there, making sure that our primary goal at Netflix is always about bringing consumers joy. And, that's a very good uh, end to always want. So it keeps you honest and keeps you true to what it is that they'd like to see, and bring the film out in its best possible form.
Amazing. So, while researching, we learned that growing up, you were around a lot of people from the industry. So, we were curious to know how that shaped your outlook.
Uh, you know, um, the thing about being kind of from the business, so to speak, as in my father was a producer and a director as well, and I have my grandfather was an actor and a producer, and for the longest time, I thought everybody is in the movie business. You don't really, nobody grows up thinking that they're different from other people. So I think, but the privilege of it was that to be surrounded by creative people at all times, who spoke about music, cinema, books, art, and that side of your brain constantly getting nurtured. And you also see very early that it's not easy. you know it's not something that you come with dreams in your eyes. You see sometimes the good days and the bad days. You see the success and the failures. The thing about the movie business is that it's very, very public. Your success is celebrated by the world, and your failure is known to everyone. So I think that is one of the greatest learnings, to not to just always remain true to what you really want to say through your story, whether you're writing it or you're directing it or you're curating it or you're broadcasting it. And that's all that really matters, and not to get caught up in trappings. I think that was the greatest learning.
So, 2020 was the year of content, and OTT platforms redefined entertainment and made cinema accessible to people. As we enter 2021, the supply and demand for movies at home is at an all time high. So, in such a competitive scenario, how does Netflix navigate and put its finger on the right kind of stories?
That's a great question. We have always had a plan. We've always been very aware that India loves their movies. In India, it is the one time when you actually see, that 80% of our subscribers choose to watch a film a week. And that's really high compared to the rest of the world as well, on Netflix per se. And so we've always been very acutely aware of it, and we started our original film content fairly well recently. It was in about 2018 that we started to make original films here, and we've managed to now put out about 30 titles, 17 of which came last year, and all of the rest were before. So this was something that we were doing. This unfortunate situation where the world was suffering in the pandemic uh, did create certain opportunities of not having to buy. I mean, to buy something that could not unfortunately come out. And we were in the privileged position to not only elevate people's moods, hopefully, with the content that we put out, but also enable the storytellers to take their story out to the public for who they make it, right? So we did buy a few films that were, we felt would be exciting for our viewers to watch. But we've always had a plan to make original films, and even in the 17 titles that we launched in 2020, I'm going to say about 12 or 13 were already planned as originals that were made for us. So going forward, we do have a robust slate, which we are trying to make sure is really diverse and is really engaging for anybody who comes on, and no matter what frame of mind they come, whatever mood that they come, or what they want to do at that moment. And continue this journey, and continue the responsibility of making sure that people are excited every time they come onto Netflix.
Right, interesting. So now to a question which a lot of us discuss in class. With so much of content coming in, how do you decide whether a particular story has to be pitched as Netflix original?
It's a lot of instinct. We you have to be kind of conscious and aware of what's happening in your surroundings. In terms of like pop culture, conversations, news, and it's a little bit of prediction, but it's mostly the vision of the creator. When somebody comes in with a story that they can't control and they have to like make it, and they're so like passionate about it, it translates to the rest of us as well. And you know that this is going to be really exciting because somebody's like just bursting with the story. One very interesting thing I found when I joined, and I found it fascinating because, like you said, I was a producer earlier, so I had the other hat on for the longest time. Is that we don't tell people what they should go out and bring for us. We always ask them, what is the story that you want to tell? So you need to have that passion when you come in with the story. You need to come in with that passion when you have like something to say. And I think the other big word for us is authenticity. We want to be authentic to the world that you are creating. Now, people oftentimes mistake authenticity to being something only gritty. But authenticity generally means that you're being true to what you're supposed to be, right? So even if you're doing like a hyper real, more mainstreamy kind of movie, the logics and the worlds have to apply. If you're doing a superhero movie, you got to be true to that. If you're doing something that's gritty and about the underbelly, then you need to be true to that. If you're doing something that's about Bombay City, it's like all our lives have so many aspects to it. And I think that's what makes it really exciting for us as storytellers. We say that India is the land of storytellers. We grow up like first listening to, we all have, a lot of us have had the privilege of having grandparents living with us, or at least to make sure that we go back and visit them often enough. So we do tend to like have some memory of some stories that they were telling. We used to tell stories down in song form. We are one country that's had we've had like theater performed by one artist on the street. And we've also had epics that have been told down by rote. And so we just love stories. India loves stories. And so, it just becomes like a spoiled for choice.
Right. Very interesting. So, how do you measure the success of each show, and what conclusions do you draw from the performance of a show?
There isn't a one size fits all, because like I was mentioning earlier also, we all have our own frame of mind. Like, someday you have like a really hard day at college, and you come back and you just want to do something, watch something that's not like, going to tax you, because you've just gone through an entire day of, engaging and being troubled. And on a weekend, maybe you want to like learn something completely new. So whether you want to watch like a sitcom, or you want to watch a documentary, or whatever it is that, at that moment you feel like, we just want to make sure that it's there for you. And we also have a fantastic algorithm that I think somehow shows it up at the time that you'd like to see it.
So, moving on, in one of the lectures, we were discussing how personalization is of key importance in today's day and age. And when it comes to individual choices and moods, Netflix caters to all across 190 countries. So, we'd like to know, how do you understand the mood and offer authenticity?
I think the authenticity comes from the creators. It comes from like being committed to telling a story for no other reason than to tell the story. It shouldn't be coming from what they believe is an external box office pressure, or like, I don't know this, but people will like it. It's got to be something that they love and they want to tell. So that always comes through. And well, the algo, like I said, is amazing. Our service is amazing. And the what we try to do is we try to listen to what it is that you have been watching, and how to make sure that you find something every time you come. But even beyond that, now we have started like the top 10 rows as well. So that also gives you something that's out of your regular realm, that other people may be watching, or something that's trending now on the service, if you see. So if you want to like kind of just flip it, like I love watching dark investigative shows. So my timeline kind of looks a lot of like the Ripper is the new one that came out, or Nightcrawler that came out, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff. Sometimes I scare myself only. And but throwing in something like once in a way, and not that I needed a top 10 row, but The Crown just changes the whole game for you, or the Queen's Gambit for that matter.
Yeah, true. So now moving on, at Mica we study courses like customer experience design and consumer behavior, and thus we understand how crucial it is to find the right consumer insights, and like how these are super essential for the optimization of customer journeys. So could you share any insights that you might have about the Indian consumer? Something you see specifically with Indians as compared to other countries?
Well, one is the movies. That you see that Indians watch a lot more movies than you see people regularly watching somewhere else, in other countries. But I think what has been really, really heartening for us to see is that during the pandemic, we've seen people sampling in many different languages. So they're picking up even like, say, Lupin, which was a show that came out. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it, boys. Yeah, you will like. Please, like, tell me, and you can thank me later. And that's a French show that's come out, or like Dark, or like even Korean content that we have on our service, Japanese content. So I think the beauty is that the diversity of the slate is available in the manner that you want to consume, at the time that you want to consume. So that's something that I think it's been encouraging to see that Indians are experimenting and they're not letting that 1 inch subtitle come in their way of enjoying a good story. And of course, like the movies, but we see that people love real, authentic stories. People just like, they know if you've done anything for the wrong reason, if you think, we can just put this together and it'll, like, people will like it just never really comes out that way. Somebody's got to believe in it. So that's like something that we're very, very conscious of.
Agreed, ma'am. So, what we have seen in the last couple of years, there has been a rise in demand for non English content, which are not only local but tailored for the Hindi hinterland. For example, Netflix Jamtara. So, what goes into ensuring that the story is local and yet it appeals to a global audience? I mean, is there a trick to it?
The thing is that, like, when we are watching something, like we're saying, like we've seen, like, even like say Dark performing on the surface, right? It's true to where it comes from. It is highly unusual for something. I can't think of a single example of something that did not work in its country of origin but worked otherwise. It has to work from where it comes. And again, it takes us back to that word authentic. One of the major crossover films that ever happened was out of Hong Kong, which was Crouching Tiger, those many years ago. And now when you're seeing like a film like White Tiger, which has got a different kind of a perspective to it, it's been hugely successful in India. So it's about like telling the story in the way that it needs to be told. More than just like, you shouldn't really look at things and say, okay, oh, this is exactly, I think, the liberation that we try to make sure that our creators have, that you don't have to tell people, okay, oh, today, you need to put an item song, you need to put four songs, you need it to be of a particular length, it has to be in a particular format. So the search is like that, what is it that you want to say, and allow us to empower you to say it in the best form for it. And which is what we do. Like, I work on film, but even across the series team and the unscripted team, there are many ways of telling the same story. Some of it can be in the form of a mini series, which is just a limited, like, one season. Some of it can be 3 episodes. Something can be like The Irishman, which is like a 3.5 hour movie. Or you can do like what we've seen a lot of success with in India with is the anthologies, where you take one basic subject, or one basic um, mudda, and you take multiple directors perspectives and how they want to come across, like we saw in Last Stories, or we saw in Ghost Stories, or we saw in Pava Kadaigal, which was our Tamil anthology that we did. And that was something that resonated even in the north with non-Tamil speaking audiences, and hopefully we will see that for Pittakadalu, which is our first Telugu anthology.
Cool. So, moving on, and on that note, we were just discussing anthology, right? And that's what we have seen, how a lot more filmmakers and actors are moving towards that and have embraced anthology format of telling stories. So, how do you see this trend for 2021? And are there any more trends that you see shaping up in the industry?
I think the idea is to freak out. I think people are now, this is the golden age of entertainment. So what we see now is that people are no longer getting boxed in by any traditional format. The ability that a service like Netflix provides is to be able to tell the story in its most authentic form, in the best form possible, whether it needs a couple of hours or it needs like season on season to tell. So I think that's seeing that liberation of the creator has been very, very gratifying. And going forward, we're hoping to just make sure, because people are, they just want to be engaged and they want to believe in what you're telling them, and they want to go around on the ride, and it doesn't really beyond a point matter to them that whether it's a short, it's just a short film, or it is multiple hours. So I think it's very exciting times. It's things that we're going to see that are going to come out that we can't even like uh, like right now we can't predict, and hopefully we'll all be surprised very pleasantly with the way the things go. But yes, the anthology format has allowed creators to come in and tell stories which were not possible for them to do, or in a traditional film format, and not possible for them to do as a series as well, because they would just get kind of lost. Tying them together thematically allows these filmmakers to try something, to experiment, to take different point of views on what they're doing. And the time commitment is also, it's for them. I remember, like, we were there in we were in Hyderabad recently. We were talking to Naga Ashwin, and who's this filmmaker who's of course like huge in the south, and he's now making a new movie with Deepika and Prabhas and Amitabh Bachchan, and something that and at one end he's doing that, and he was like, I can't believe that on the other end I've done like a 20-minute, this is the fastest that I've ever made a movie. And it was so nice to see, because I mean, it would be lovely to hear from you guys once you saw it, because it's something that we haven't seen. It's completely unexpected, especially in an anthology format, and especially based on we're talking about women in that. But he's gone, like, I mean, I wish next week I would have been able to discuss it with you guys fully. And
Right.
so basically, let me just tell you that from it can be from a story of today, it can be a story of the past, and it can be a story of the future. We the wonderful thing about seeing these anthologies is that we're seeing it from, we're seeing stories in the same theme. And especially like when Pitak Nagalu is there, or even if you saw it, even if you all did, you must check out Baba Kadegal, because what talent, even in the Tamil cinema, aside from just Hindi, we have so much talent in this country. It's like being a kid in a candy store. So you can see like from the heartland of Telangana, all the way from like as hyper city as you can see, and they're all thematically tied together. It's fascinating.
Agreed, ma'am. So, ma'am, with the rise of OTT content and cinema, there has also been an increase in the new talent, and there is a lot more inclusivity in that sense. How do you think the streaming platform serves as the meeting point of established stars and budding storytellers?
I think the ability of for a service like Netflix to be able to deliver content to you at the time and in the manner that you like allows you to kind of pick and choose on stories that you wouldn't have even done, on another occasion. Uh, so what happens is that, like, we have the luxury of being, I mean, I would say we have the luxury, which also means that we have the responsibility of being as true as we can to what it is we're trying to say. So we don't have to necessarily have like a 40-year-old leading man going to college. uh, you know we don't necessarily have to have people who are from different ethnicities playing other characters. So in the world of trying to be honest and to be real, you do end up with that. And I think one of the biggest uh, conscious things that we do in Netflix to try to be as diverse as we can, not just in terms of the stories that we are telling, but also like from different parts of the country that they come from, and different parts of the world where they come from, and also through different lenses. So we always looking at like how it is that we can have much more representation on and off screen. So, when you have a female director, and we've been very fortunate to have had about 12 creators working across, just last year for us in as writers or producers or directors in the female space, which is something is considerably more than what you see in the more traditional formats. They bring their own life experiences, their own point of view, which is very different from what we've been seeing all along. So, or that when you make a film, when we see a film like Akhuni, so when we look and you see like whether you say like you have an Akhuni that comes from the northeast part where we don't get to see too much, and like I was saying, we have 11 languages in which we serve content. and aside from the dubbing and the subbing that happens for the other global stuff as well, right? So people have a window to see the world from many, many point of views, and I think that's what people find fascinating. You want to see yourself represented on screen. You also want to see things that you would have never come across, and they can only be real if it's not all like stereotypical and one size fits all. These are things that the variety is what makes it, like, part of a whole 360 experience of actually humankind.
Right. So, moving on from what you just shared, we now wish to understand from you what aspects do you keep in mind while introducing a new creator who eventually may grow to become their new favorite.
That's a great question, and I'm really happy to talk to you guys about it, because this is one thing that is like a two-way street always. While we want to make sure that we have the newer, younger, fresher, and thus bolder voices, because the innocence of not having made a mistake always enables you to try something nobody's tried before. And that's a stage that, when people are just out of college and the first jobbers, and it's always wonderful to see that there's no fear of what could go wrong. It's mostly about an aspiration of what will go right, and so you fearlessly jump into it, and that's how innovation comes. That's how new strong voices come out. So I think one of the things that we look for when we're looking at a new creator is obviously somebody who's kind of thought through, because the other side of being in a creative job is that you don't have any sort of definite qualifications. So I think the when you have like fresh bold voices, the idea is to kind of make sure that they are empowered and they're also protected. It's what we call, what you can think of as, like, you want to give them wings, you also want to give them roots. So what happens is that they have the security and the support, but they can also fly as open as they want. Having said that, there because there is no particular qualification that you need to have to tell a story, as educated as you are, and especially like if you've had the opportunity to go to film school, or you've had the opportunity to, and I'm talking specifically about content creators, it always helps you hone your craft a little bit more. But we have seen time and again people who don't have any formal education come out and make brilliant cinema as well. So I think one of the things is to ask yourself is that, am I ready? Is this ready? Because nobody has till today come to us and pitched something and said that, oh, this is okay, but let's make it. Everybody comes with the world's best idea, and something that's so Netflix, it can only come on Netflix. And we so you want to make sure that you've done all your work and it's not just a whim. Of course, with the established people it's much much easier, because you have an idea of what they stand for. But what we find really, really exciting is that more and more people are coming here and they want to try to do something that they've hidden in their hearts for a while. And now they have the opportunity, like I was saying earlier, to be able to tell it in its best form.
Right, that's amazing. So before we conclude, is there any recommendation that you'd like to share with us, which is important to you in your life? Could be a quote, a book, any particular movie, or maybe even an experience.
Oh my God. I'm a great one to like pick up. I think what resonates with you in that moment is your honest truth, right? Because you never know. I remember many years ago I was very unhappy about some stuff, and I read a quote somewhere that says that if you're not happy, move. You are not a tree. And that just like made such a big difference to me. But I think that if there's one thing that I could say is that we all have so much that we want to say. There's just so much we want to share. To take a minute to also listen and not just talk. I think learning that is something that experience teaches you. But then here's another one of my favorite sayings that, anybody can learn from their experience. A wise person learns from others.
That's beautiful, ma'am. And it also brings us to a close. Thank you so much, Rishti, ma'am, for joining us today.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Ma'am, it was a pleasure to host you on my cast. I'm sure the listeners are going to love this particular episode. We look forward to more interactions with you in the near future. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye, Pranav. Bye, Jay.